Tonight, you're going to live through the craziest siege in history, Carthage's blood-soaked walls defying Rome's wrath. You stand in Carthage, 146 BC, where the air reeks of salt and fear. The Mediterranean sun beats down on towering stone walls, their shadows jagged against the dust. Rome's legions encircle the city, their siege engines looming like iron beasts. You hear the distant thrum of catapults, the screams of men crushed under stone. The stakes. Carthage's survival, a proud empire facing annihilation. One false step, and you're buried in the rubble. Let's see if you make it out alive. Before the blood starts spilling, hit like and subscribe, if you can handle what's coming. Drop a comment, where are you watching from? Now get comfortable, steel yourself, and let's begin. You're on the ramparts of Carthage's outer wall, your sandals grinding against gritty stone. The city sprawls below, a maze of whitewashed buildings and bustling markets, but the air is thick with panic. Torches flicker in the dawn, casting eerie shadows that twist like specters. You smell smoke, faint but growing, as Roman ballistae hurl boulders that shake the earth. The walls, 3 layers deep, are Carthage's pride, built to withstand gods and men. Yet you see cracks spiderwebbing the stone, and your heart pounds. Rome's not here to negotiate. You grip a spear, its shaft worn smooth by hands before yours. Below, Carthaginian soldiers in bronze armor scramble, their faces gaunt but fierce. You hear their shouts, a mix of Punic and desperation, as they brace shields against the hail of arrows. A young boy, no older than 12, runs past, carrying water skins to the archers. His eyes are wide, terrified, but he doesn't stop. You want to call out, to tell him to hide, but there's no safety here. The Romans are relentless, their camp a sea of red cloaks stretching to the horizon. You glance at the harbor, where Carthage's ships bob, trapped by Roman triremes. The water glitters, mocking the city's thirst. An eerie detail catches you, a lone raven perches on the wall, its beak stained red, as if it's tasted blood already. Some soldiers whisper it's a sign from Baal, Carthage's god, but is it favor or doom? Historians still debate whether the raven was an omen or just a scavenger drawn to death, but its presence chills you. You tighten your grip on the spear, feeling exposed. Key fact, the Third Punic War, culminating in 146 BC, saw Rome besiege Carthage for 3 years, determined to erase its rival from history. You feel that determination now, in the rhythm of Roman drums, the creak of siege towers rolling closer. The defenders around you curse Rome, their voices raw. You see a captain, his helmet dented, rallying men to reinforce a crumbling gate. His words are fire, but you notice his hands tremble. Carthage is fighting for its soul, and you're part of it, whether you want to be or not. You move along the wall, dodging a shower of stones from a Roman catapult. The impact shakes your bones, dust choking your lungs. You hear a scream, a soldier pinned under rubble, his blood pooling on the stone. You want to help, but there's no time. The Romans are testing the walls, probing for weakness. You see their siege ladders rising, their soldiers climbing like ants. You thrust your spear, knocking one back, but more come. The city's pulse is fading, and you feel it in your chest, a heartbeat racing against time. You look out at the Roman camp, where Scipio Aemilianus, their young general, commands. His tent, crimson and gold, stands like a king's, mocking Carthage's defiance. You hear whispers of his ruthlessness, his vow to burn the city to ash. You're not sure if Carthage can hold, but you know one thing, surrender isn't an option. The walls groan under another barrage, and you brace yourself. You're not just a defender, you're a witness to a city's last stand, and the fight is only beginning. You descend from Carthage's battered walls, your spear heavy in your hand, the echoes of Roman catapults fading behind you. The city's streets swallow you, narrow alleys choked with dust and despair. It's 146 BC, and famine claws at Carthage's heart. You smell decay, the sour tang of unburied bodies mixing with the salt breeze from the harbor. Starving faces peer from doorways, their eyes hollow, accusing. You feel the weight of their hunger, a stone in your gut, as you navigate this labyrinth of a city fighting to survive Rome's noose. You weave through the crowd, your sandals sticking to the cracked cobblestones. Women in tattered robes clutch children, their whispers sharp with fear. A man, his ribs stark against his skin, barters a bronze ring for a handful of moldy grain. You hear the clink of the deal, a sound louder than the distant war drums. The marketplace, once vibrant with spices and silk, is a ghost of itself, stalls empty, flies buzzing over scraps. You want to look away, but every face tells a story of a city bleeding out. You pause by a well, its bucket dry, the rope frayed. A girl, no older than 10, kneels beside it, her hands scraping the stone for drops of water. You offer her your skin, half empty, and she drinks, her eyes meeting yours with a mix of gratitude and defiance. You feel her strength, a spark in this dying city. But an eerie detail unsettles you, her necklace, a tiny silver fish, glows faintly, as if blessed by Tanit, Carthage's goddess. Some say such charms ward off death, others call them desperate superstition. Historians still debate whether these talismans gave hope or mocked it, but you feel its weight. Key fact, by 146 BC, Rome's blockade had starved Carthage for months, cutting off grain shipments and forcing citizens to eat leather and worse to survive. You see that desperation now, in the skeletal dogs gnawing bones, in the silence where laughter once rang. You move deeper into the city, passing a temple where priests burn incense, their chants to bawl drowned by a mother's wail. The air is thick, not just with smoke but with the sense that time is running out. You're not sure if the gods are listening, but you know Rome isn't. You turn a corner, and the street opens to a grim scene, a makeshift hospital under a tattered canopy. Wounded soldiers lie on straw mats, their moans a low hum. A healer, her hands stained with blood, binds a man's shattered leg. You catch her eye, and she shakes her head, too many to save, too little to give. You remember the boy on the walls, carrying water, and wonder if he's here, broken. The thought twists your gut. You want to help, but your spear feels useless against this enemy, hunger, not steel. You notice a group of men, their faces shadowed, whispering by a cart piled with weapons. They speak of Hasdrubal, Carthage's leader, vowing to fight to the last man. You feel their resolve, but also their fear. One man, his beard streaked with ash, clutches a dagger, muttering about Roman spies in the city. You wonder if he's paranoid or right. The memory of the raven on the wall, its red-stained beak, lingers in your mind. Was it a sign, or just death circling closer? You're not sure, but suspicion is a poison here. You push on, the streets narrowing, the air growing hotter. A child runs past, clutching a stolen loaf, pursued by shouts. You see the desperation in his speed, the survival in his eyes. You're caught in Carthage's pulse, weak but stubborn, a city refusing to kneel. The harbor's masts peak above the rooftops, a reminder of the world beyond Rome's grip. You hear a distant crash, another wall struck, another life lost. You're not just walking these streets, you're carrying their pain, and it's heavier than your spear. You reach a plaza, where a crowd gathers around a speaker. His voice is fire, promising defiance, but you see the hunger in their faces, the doubt in their eyes. You're standing in a city on the edge, and every step feels like a gamble. The famine is a blade, and Rome's waiting to twist it. You grip your spear tighter, the wood grounding you. You're not just a soldier, you're part of Carthage's last breath, and the fight is far from over. You're standing in Carthage's central plaza, the air thick with dust and defiance. The famine's grip tightens, but now you feel a spark of resistance. Hasdrubal, Carthage's commander, stands on a stone platform, his bronze armor dented, his voice a thunderclap rallying the bloodied crowd. It's 146 BC, and Rome's siege engines pound the walls, but here, in this moment, you're swept into a surge of hope, or madness. You smell sweat and ash, your spear heavy from the streets you've walked. Hasdrubal's words are a fire in your chest, but the hunger in your gut whispers doubt. You press closer, shoving through the crowd. Men in tattered tunics, women clutching infants, soldiers with bandaged limbs, all eyes are on Hasdrubal. His beard is streaked with soot, his eyes blazing like a prophet's. He speaks of Carthage's glory, of Hannibal's legacy, of a city that once made Rome tremble. You feel the pride in his voice, a tide lifting the crowd. He raises a sword, its blade catching the sun, and vows to fight until the last breath. You want to cheer, but you see the gaunt faces around you, their hope fragile as glass. You notice an eerie detail, a priest beside Hasdrubal holds a bronze idol of Baal, its surface slick with fresh blood. Whispers ripple, some say a child was sacrificed to appease the gods, a desperate act to break the siege. Historians still debate whether Carthage resorted to such rituals in its final days, but you feel the chill of it, the crowd's unease mixing with their fervor. You glance at Hasdrubal, his face unreadable. Is he a savior, or a man driven to madness by Rome's relentless grip? Key fact: Hasdrubal, Carthage's leader during the Third Punic War, organized the city's defense against Rome's siege, rallying civilians and soldiers alike despite dwindling resources. You see that leadership now, his gestures sharp, his voice cutting through the distant crash of Roman boulders. He calls for every man to arm, every woman to forge, every child to carry stones. You feel the crowd shift, their fear hardening into resolve. A soldier beside you, his arm in a sling, grips a dagger, nodding fiercely. You're caught in the moment, your spear suddenly lighter. You move toward the platform, the plaza's stones uneven underfoot. The air smells of burning pitch, a reminder of the harbor's trapped ships. You hear a woman's voice, sharp and clear, shouting Hasdrubal's name. She's older, her hair gray, her hands scarred from labor. She holds a wicker basket of arrows, offering them to the soldiers. You see the fire in her eyes, a mirror of Hasdrubal's, and realize Carthage's spirit isn't just in its walls, it's in its people. You remember the girl by the well, her silver fish necklace, and wonder if she's here, fighting too. You scan the crowd, noticing Roman armor glinting in the distance, captured trophies, now wielded by Carthaginians. Hasdrubal points to them, roaring about turning Rome's steel against its masters. You feel the surge of defiance, but also a crack in the unity. A man near you, his face shadowed, mutters about surrender, about Rome's mercy. You turn, but he's gone, swallowed by the crowd. You recall the whispers in the streets, the fear of spies. Is dissent growing, or is it just the famine talking? Your stomach twists, the hunger a constant companion. You're close enough to see Hasdrubal's hands, scarred from battle, trembling slightly as he grips his sword. He's not just a leader, he's a man carrying a city's weight. You feel it too, the pressure of Rome's legions, the starvation, the god's silence. The crowd roars, but you notice some faces stay silent, their eyes cold. You remember the raven on the wall, its blood-stained beak, and wonder if it's watching now. The plaza feels like a crucible, forging something unbreakable, or shattering it. You're swept along as Hasdrubal descends, leading a group toward the walls. You follow, your spear raised, the crowds chant a pulse in your blood. The streets blur, the city a living thing, wounded but fierce. You hear the Roman catapults again, closer now, their rhythm a heartbeat of doom. You're not just a soldier, you're part of Carthage's defiance, a spark in a city about to burn. Hasdrubal's voice echoes in your mind, a call to fight, to die, to live. You're ready, but the doubt lingers, a shadow you can't shake. You're back on Carthage's walls, the air thick with dust and the metallic tang of blood. It's 146 BC, and Rome's legions are storming the outer gates, their war cries a tidal wave crashing against the stone. You grip your spear, its point dulled from use, as Scipio Aemilianus soldiers swarm like locusts, their red shields glinting under the merciless sun. The ground shakes with the thud of battering rams, and you feel the city's pulse falter. You're not just defending a wall, you're holding Carthage's last breath, and it's slipping through your fingers. You crouch behind a parapet, arrows whistling past like angry hornets. Below, Roman ladders claw at the walls, their iron hooks biting stone. You see a Carthaginian archer, his bowstring snapping, send a man tumbling into the dust. But more come, their armor clanking, their faces set with grim purpose. You thrust your spear, catching a Roman's shield, the impact jarring your bones. You hear Hasdrubal's voice, distant but fierce, urging you to hold the line. You want to believe in him, but the wall trembles, a crack splitting under your feet. You glance at the city behind you, its white rooftop stained with smoke. The harbor burns, flames licking the masts of trapped ships. An eerie detail catches you, a lone vulture circles above, its wings casting a shadow that feels like a shroud. Some soldiers whisper it's Moloch, Carthage's dark god, watching the city's agony. Historians still debate whether such omens drove Carthage's defenders to despair or defiance, but you feel its weight, a chill that settles in your chest. You tighten your grip, refusing to break. Key fact, in 146 BC, Scipio Aemilianus led Rome's final assault on Carthage, breaching the outer walls after months of relentless siege, aiming to crush the city's resistance. You see that assault now, a wave of steel and fury. Roman soldiers pour through a shattered gate, their swords flashing. You swing your spear, knocking one back, but the tide is endless. A comrade falls beside you, his throat pierced, his blood warm on your arm. You want to scream, but there's no time, only the fight, the chaos, the roar of a city dying. You scramble to a higher rampart, dodging a hail of stones from a Roman ballista. The air smells of burning pitch and sweat. You see Hasdrubal, his armor splattered with blood, rallying a knot of defenders. He's a lion, but you notice his eyes, wild, exhausted. He points to the inner walls, shouting for retreat. You feel the sting of it, abandoning this ground, but you know he's right. You run, your lungs burning, as Romans swarm the lower wall. You hear their cheers, a sound that cuts deeper than any blade. You pass a boy, the same one you saw carrying water days ago, now wielding a sling. He hurls a stone, striking a Roman's helmet, but you see the fear in his eyes. You want to protect him, but a spear grazes your shoulder, forcing you to keep moving. You remember the plaza, Hasdrubal's fiery words, and wonder if they still hold. The city's fighting, but it's bleeding out. You catch a glimpse of a woman on the wall, her hair shorn, tossing javelins with a fury that makes you pause. Carthage's spirit is alive, but for how long? You reach the second wall, its stones cooler, less scarred. Defenders are piling rocks, reinforcing gates, their faces grim but unbroken. You hear a priest chanting, his voice a desperate plea to Tanit. A bronze censer swings, its smoke curling like a ghost. You recall the famine-ravaged streets, the girl's silver fish necklace, and wonder if the gods care. The Romans are closer now, their rams pounding like heartbeats. You feel the city's defiance, but also its fragility, a flame flickering in a storm. You brace yourself, spear raised, as the Romans advance. Their shields form a wall, their steps a drumbeat of doom. You're not just fighting for Carthage, you're fighting for the boy, the woman, the priest, for a city that refuses to kneel. The memory of the vulture lingers, its shadow a warning. You're caught in a storm of steel and fire, and every thrust of your spear is a prayer for survival. The walls shake, and you know the next moment could break you, or Carthage itself. You're sprinting through Carthage's burning harbor, the air thick with smoke and the stench of charred wood. It's 146 BC, and Rome's legions have breached the outer walls, their fire arrows turning the docks into an inferno. You clutch your spear, its shaft slick with sweat, as flames leap from ship to ship, their sails curling like dying leaves. The sea reflects the blaze, a mirror of blood and fire, and you hear the screams of sailors trapped in the wreckage. You're fighting not just for Carthage, but for every breath, every step, as the city burns around you. You weave through the chaos, dodging falling spars and splintered planks. Roman triremes block the harbor's mouth, their rams gleaming like teeth. You see Carthaginian sailors, their tunics scorched, hurling javelins from sinking ships. A man falls, his chest pierced, splashing into the water beside you. You want to pull him out, but the current drags him under. The harbor's a graveyard, and you're caught in its pulse, fury, fear, defiance. You hear Hasdrubal's voice, faint over the roar, urging men to hold the docks. His words are a lifeline, but the flames are closing in. An eerie detail catches you: a bronze statue of Dido, Carthage's mythical founder, stands half-melted on the quay, its face weeping molten tears. Whispers spread among the fighters, some say it's a curse, others a call to fight harder. Historians still debate whether such omens fueled Carthage's resistance or broke their spirit, but you feel its weight, a shadow heavier than the smoke. You glance at the statue, its eyes seeming to watch you, and your grip tightens on your spear. Key fact: in 146 BC, Rome's assault on Carthage's harbor aimed to cut off the city's last supply line, with fires destroying much of the fleet that once rivaled Rome's navy. You see that destruction now, ships burning, their masts collapsing like fallen giants. You scramble onto a pier, the wood hot underfoot, and join a knot of defenders. A captain, his face blackened by soot, swings an axe, cutting a Roman rope ladder. You thrust your spear, catching a soldier climbing from a boat. The fight is brutal, hand to hand, and you feel every blow in your bones. You notice a woman nearby, her hair singed, dragging a wounded man to safety. Her hands are raw, but she doesn't stop, her eyes fierce with purpose. You remember the woman on the wall, tossing javelins, and wonder if it's her, still fighting. You want to help, but a Roman charges, his sword flashing. You parry, your spear cracking, and drive him back into the water. The harbor's edge is a slaughterhouse, blood mixing with seawater, and you're not sure how long you can hold. You hear a roar, Roman reinforcements landing, their boots thudding on the docks. You see their red cloaks, a wave breaking against Carthage's defiance. You recall the plaza, Hasdrubal's fiery speech, and feel its echo in your chest. But the flames are everywhere, the air choking you. You cough, your lungs burning, and spot a child darting through the smoke, carrying a bucket of sand to douse a fire. His courage stabs you, a reminder of the city's heart, still beating despite the odds. You fall back, joining a line of defenders at a stone barricade. The harbor's lost, but you're not done. You see Hasdrubal, his armor charred, rallying men to retreat to the inner city. His sword is bloodied, his voice hoarse, but he's a beacon in the chaos. You follow, the flames licking at your heels. The memory of the streets, the starving faces, the vulture's shadow, it all swirls in your mind. You're not just fighting for survival, you're fighting for Carthage's soul, and every step is a gamble against the fire. You reach a gate, its iron hinges groaning as defenders slam it shut. The Romans are close, their war cries piercing the smoke. You feel the city shrinking, its walls closing in like a wounded beast. The statue of Dido lingers in your mind, its molten tears a warning. You're caught in a storm of fire and blood, and you know the next fight could be your last. Your spear feels heavier now, but you raise it, ready for what's coming. You're stumbling through Carthage's smoke-choked streets, the harbor's flames a fading roar behind you. It's 146 BC, and Rome's grip tightens, but now a darker poison seeps into the city: betrayal. You clutch your cracked spear, its weight a reminder of the battles you've survived. The air smells of ash and fear, and whispers of treachery slither through the alleys. You hear Hasdrubal's name, cursed by some, praised by others, as shadows move in the corners. You're not just fighting Rome, you're hunting a traitor within Carthage's heart. You weave through the city, passing shattered homes and barricades of broken carts. The streets are a maze, their stones slick with blood and soot. You see a woman, her face gaunt, hiding a bundle of bread, her eyes darting as if expecting betrayal. A soldier limps past, muttering about spies opening gates to the Romans. You feel the suspicion like a blade at your back. The city's starving, burning, and now it's turning on itself. You want to shout, to demand answers, but the truth is as slippery as the ash underfoot. An eerie detail catches you: a wall scrawled with Punic curses, smeared in what looks like blood, naming Hasdrubal's advisors as traitors. Whispers claim some nobles offered Rome the city's keys for mercy. Historians still debate whether internal betrayal weakened Carthage's defenses or if Roman propaganda sowed the distrust, but you feel its poison now, eating at the city's resolve. You glance at a shadowed alley, half expecting a traitor to emerge. Your spear feels heavier, as if it knows the enemy isn't just outside the walls. Key fact: during the Third Punic War, rumors of betrayal plagued Carthage, with some leaders accused of negotiating surrender to save themselves, fracturing the city's unity. You see that fracture now, in the eyes of soldiers guarding a gate, their hands twitching near swords. You approach, heart pounding, and ask for news. One spits, saying a counselor was caught sending messages to Scipio. You're not sure if it's true, but the doubt is a weight, like the hunger gnawing your stomach. You remember the burning harbor, the molten statue of Dido, and wonder if Carthage's gods have turned away. You move toward the citadel, where Hasdrubal's command post looms. The streets narrow, the air thick with the stench of unburied dead. You pass a temple, its doors ajar, priests chanting desperately to Baal. A bronze censer swings, its smoke curling like a noose. You see a man, his cloak torn, slipping from the temple with a sealed scroll. His eyes meet yours, then dart away. You want to follow, but a shout pulls you back, a patrol dragging a bound noble, accused of selling secrets. The crowd jeers, their voices raw with hunger and rage. You join the patrol, your spear raised, as they march the prisoner through the streets. His fine robes are stained, his face pale but defiant. He claims innocence, but the soldiers don't listen. You feel the crowd's anger, a fire fed by starvation and loss. You recall the plaza, Hasdrubal's rallying cry, and wonder if he knows his city is cracking. The prisoner's eyes lock on yours, pleading, but you look away. Is he a traitor, or a scapegoat for a city desperate for hope? You're not sure, but the suspicion is a blade in your hand. You reach a square, where Hasdrubal stands, his armor scarred, addressing a small crowd. He speaks of unity, of fighting Rome to the last. But you notice his voice wavers, his eyes scanning for dissent. You see soldiers whispering, their hands on daggers. The memory of the blood-smeared wall lingers, its curses echoing in your mind. You want to believe in Hasdrubal, in Carthage, but the air feels heavier, as if the city itself is holding its breath. A child runs past, clutching a stolen dagger, and you see the same fear in his eyes. You're caught in the crowd, the pulse of betrayal beating louder than Rome's drums. The citadel looms, a last bastion, but even here, trust is crumbling. You grip your spear, its cracks mirroring the city's. You're not just a defender, you're a hunter, searching for the truth in a city tearing itself apart. The whispers grow louder, the shadows deeper, and you know the next betrayal could be the one that breaks Carthage for good. You're racing toward Byrsa, Carthage's sacred hill, the city's heart pounding under Rome's relentless hammer. It's 146 BC, and the Romans have breached the second wall, their red cloaks flooding the streets like blood. You clutch your cracked spear, its weight a tether as you climb the steep path to the Temple of Eshmun, where Carthage makes its last stand. The air reeks of burning cedar and sweat, the screams of the dying echoing from below. You're not just defending stone, you're guarding the soul of a city, and it's crumbling under your feet. You reach the temple's courtyard, its marble columns cracked, stained with soot. Carthaginian soldiers, their armor battered, form a ragged line, shields locked against the Roman tide. You join them, your spear raised, the ground slick with blood. The temple looms behind you, its bronze doors gleaming, a sanctuary now a fortress. You hear Hasdrubal, his voice raw, shouting from the steps, urging you to hold. His sword is red, his face a mask of fury and desperation. You feel his fire, but the Romans are closer, their war cries a storm breaking against the hill. An eerie detail grips you, a priest inside the temple burns sacred scrolls, their smoke curling like ghosts, as if to hide Carthage's secrets from Rome. Whispers claim the scrolls held prophecies of the city's fall, written in blood. Historians still debate whether such rituals were acts of defiance or despair, but you feel their weight, a chill that cuts through the heat of battle. You glance at the temple, its doors trembling under Roman rams, and wonder if the gods are watching, or if they've abandoned you. Key fact: Byrsa, Carthage's fortified citadel, was the site of the final stand in 146 BC, where defenders, led by Hasdrubal, fought to protect the city's sacred temples from Roman conquest. You see that fight now, a chaos of steel and fire. Romans charge, their shields a wall of red, their swords flashing. You thrust your spear, catching a soldier's arm, but another takes his place. A comrade falls, his shield splintered, and you step over him, your heart pounding. You want to falter, but the temple's presence steadies you, a beacon of Carthage's defiance. You notice a boy, the one with the sling from the walls, now wielding a dagger, his face streaked with ash. He fights beside you, his strikes wild but fierce. You want to shield him, but there's no time. A Roman centurion looms, his plume bobbing, and you parry his sword, the clash ringing in your ears. The courtyard is a slaughterhouse, bodies piling at the temple steps. You hear a woman scream, not of fear but rage, and see her hurling stones from the roof. You remember the harbor, her dragging a wounded man, and feel her strength fueling you. You fall back, the line breaking, as Romans press closer. The temple doors groan, their hinges buckling. You see Hasdrubal, his armor gashed, fighting like a trapped lion. He shouts for you to hold the stairs, and you obey, your spear a blur. The air is thick with smoke, the scent of burning scrolls choking you. You recall the streets, the blood-smeared curses, the whispers of betrayal. Was this moment foretold, or is it just Rome's weight crushing you? You're not sure, but doubt is a luxury you can't afford. You glance at the city below, flames licking the rooftops, the harbor a sea of fire. The memory of the vulture, the molten statue of Dido, the starving girl's necklace, they swirl in your mind, a litany of loss. You hear a priest's chant, faint behind the clash of steel, pleading for Baal's mercy. The Romans are relentless, their rams pounding like heartbeats. You feel Carthage's pulse weakening, but you fight on, every thrust a prayer for survival. The boy beside you stumbles, blood blooming on his tunic, and you catch him, his weight a reminder of what you're fighting for. You're trapped in Byrsa's last stand, the temple's shadow your only shelter. The Romans are a tide, and you're a rock, eroding with every blow. You're not just a soldier, you're Carthage's final breath, and you'll hold it as long as you can. The doors crack, and you brace for the end, your spear raised, your heart a drumbeat of defiance. You're staggering through Byrsa's blood-soaked courtyard, the temple of Eshmun behind you now a battered shell, its bronze doors splintered by Roman rams. It's 146 BC, and Carthage's heart is breaking, but a new fire burns, women, not soldiers, fuel the city's dying defiance. You clutch your cracked spear, the air thick with smoke and the screams of the fallen. You see them now, Carthage's women, their robes torn, hair shorn, forging weapons in a desperate bid to hold back Rome. Their sacrifice is a blade in your chest, and you're fighting not just for survival, but for their courage. You weave through the chaos, the ground slick with blood and ash. Women stand at makeshift forges, their hands blistered, hammering bronze into spearheads. You see a young woman, her face streaked with soot, passing arrows to archers on the temple steps. Her eyes burn with a fury you recognize from the harbor, from the walls. She's not just fighting, she's keeping Carthage alive. You want to speak to her, to thank her, but a Roman shout pulls you back. You raise your spear, your arm heavy, as the enemy surges closer. An eerie detail catches you, a pile of braided hair, cut from the women's heads, lies beside a forge, offered to Tanit for victory. Whispers claim this sacrifice mirrors ancient rituals, a plea for divine strength. Historians still debate whether these acts were faith or desperation, but you feel their weight, a solemn vow in the midst of slaughter. You glance at the women, their shorn heads gleaming, and wonder if the gods are listening. Your spear feels heavier, as if it carries their offering too. Key fact: in 146 BC, Carthage's women cut their hair to make bowstrings and worked tirelessly to forge weapons, sustaining the city's defense as resources dwindled. You see that sacrifice now, in the clanging forges, the sweat on their brows. A woman hands you a fresh spear, its point sharp, her hands trembling but steady. You nod, unable to speak, and join the defenders at the temple's base. Romans charge, their shields a red wall, their swords gleaming. You thrust, your new spear biting flesh, but the tide is relentless. You notice an older woman, her gray hair cropped, dragging a cart of javelins to the line. She moves with purpose, ignoring the arrows whistling past. You remember the woman tossing stones from the wall, the one dragging a wounded man in the harbor, and realize she's everywhere, Carthage's spine. You want to protect her, but she's already fighting, her hands stained with pitch as she lights a fire to burn a Roman ladder. You feel her strength, a fire that outshines the flames consuming the city. You fall back, the temple steps slick underfoot. The Romans are closer, their rams pounding the last doors. You see Hasdrubal, his armor gashed, fighting beside a woman wielding a dagger. His voice is hoarse, urging the defenders to hold. You recall the plaza, his fiery speech, and see its echo in these women, their hands forging defiance from despair. A girl, barely a teen, runs past, carrying a wicker basket of stones. You recognize the boy with the sling, now dead, and wonder if she's his sister, continuing his fight. The air is thick with smoke, the scent of burning hair and cedar choking you. You hear a priest's chant, faint, pleading for Baal's mercy. The memory of the blood-smeared curses, the vulture's shadow, the molten statue of Dido, they swirl in your mind, a litany of loss. You thrust your spear, driving back a Roman, but your strength is fading. The women's forges clang, a heartbeat against Rome's drums. You're not sure if Carthage can hold, but these women are its pulse, refusing to let it die. You brace yourself, shoulder to shoulder with a woman archer, her bowstring taut. The Romans are a tide, their war cries drowning the chants. You feel the city's desperation, but also its fire, kindled by these women who won't kneel. You're not just a soldier, you're a witness to their sacrifice, a spark in a city burning out. The temple trembles, and you know the end is near, but you fight on, for them, for Carthage, for a legacy that won't fade. You're kneeling in Byrsa's shattered courtyard, the temple of Eshmun a broken husk behind you, its bronze doors torn from their hinges. It's 146 BC, and Rome's legions flood the sacred hill, their red cloaks a tide drowning Carthage's last hope. Your cracked spear lies beside you, useless now, as Scipio Aemilianus' soldiers crush the city's spirit. The air reeks of blood and burning cedar, the screams of the fallen a chorus in your ears. You feel the weight of defeat, a stone in your chest, as Carthage kneels to Rome's wrath. You stagger to your feet, the ground slick with ash and blood. Romans swarm the temple steps, their swords flashing, cutting down defenders like wheat. You see Hasdrubal, his armor rent, fighting a losing battle at the temple's threshold. His sword is a blur, but his eyes are wild, broken. You want to join him, but a Roman shield slams you back, the impact stealing your breath. You crawl behind a fallen column, your hands shaking, the city's pulse fading. The women's forges are silent now, their fires snuffed out by Rome's steel. An eerie detail catches you, a single flame flickers in the temple, where a priest lies dead, his hand clutching a bronze idol of Baal, its eyes glinting as if alive. Whispers among the survivors claim the idol cursed the city for its sins. Historians still debate whether Carthage's final days were marked by divine wrath or Roman ruthlessness, but you feel the chill of it, a shadow heavier than the smoke. You glance at the flame, its light mocking your defeat, and wonder if the gods ever cared. Key fact: in 146 BC, Scipio Aemilianus' forces overwhelmed Byrsa, capturing or killing most of Carthage's defenders, including Hasdrubal, marking the city's fall. You see that triumph now, Romans dragging prisoners through the courtyard, their chains clanking. You hear Hasdrubal's final shout, a defiant curse at Scipio, before he's overwhelmed. You want to scream, to fight, but your body betrays you, every muscle screaming with exhaustion. A Roman soldier looms, his sword raised, but another calls him off. Scipio wants survivors to witness Carthage's end. You're herded with others, your wrists bound with coarse rope. You see the woman from the forge, her shorn head bowed, blood trickling from her arm. She meets your eyes, her fire dimmed but not gone. You remember her hammering spearheads, the girl with the stones, the boy with the sling, Carthage's heart, now broken. You're pushed through the streets, passing burning homes and bodies piled like kindling. The air is thick with sobs and the crackle of flames. You recall the plaza, Hasdrubal's rallying cry, and feel its echo in your chest, a ghost of defiance. You glimpse Scipio himself, standing on a rise, his crimson cloak billowing. His face is young, hard, a conqueror's mask. You hear whispers, he wept for Carthage, pitying its fall, but you see no tears, only triumph. You want to spit at him, but the rope bites your wrists, and you're forced to march. The city's temples burn, their smoke curling like a funeral shroud. You remember the blood-smeared curses, the vulture's shadow, the molten statue of Dido, a litany of warnings you couldn't heed. You're driven toward the harbor, where Roman ships unload chains and torches. The sea glitters, indifferent to Carthage's agony. You see a girl, the one with the silver fish necklace, now a prisoner, her eyes empty. You want to comfort her, but a Roman shoves you forward. The memory of the starving streets, the women's sacrifice, the temple's last stand, they swirl in your mind, a storm of loss. You're not sure if Carthage's gods betrayed you, or if Rome was simply too strong. You're forced to your knees again, the harbor's stones cold under you. Romans cheer, their voices a knife in your heart. You see Carthage burning, its walls crumbling, its people enslaved. You feel the city's spirit slipping away, a flame flickering out. You're not just a prisoner, you're a witness to an empire's death, and the weight of it crushes you. Scipio's shadow looms, and you know the end is here, but a spark of Carthage lingers, refusing to die. You're trudging through Carthage's smoldering ruins, the harbor's chains heavy on your wrists, the city's heartbeat silenced. It's 146 BC, and Rome's victory is complete, Scipio Aemilianus' legions leaving only ash and echoes where an empire once stood. The air is thick with the stench of charred stone and salt, the sea lapping indifferently at the blackened docks. Your cracked spear is gone, stripped away like Carthage's pride, and you walk among the ghosts of a city that defied Rome to its last breath. You feel the weight of its fall, a wound that will never heal. You stumble over broken cobblestones, the streets you once defended now a graveyard of rubble. Roman soldiers prod you forward, their red cloaks stark against the grey ash. You see shattered temples, their columns toppled, their altars smeared with blood. The temple of Eshmun, where you made your last stand, is a hollow shell, its bronze idol of Baal buried under debris. You hear no chants, no cries, only the crackle of dying fires and the clink of chains. The silence is louder than any battle, and it presses against your chest. An eerie detail lingers, a single olive tree, scorched but standing, its leaves curling in the heat, as if Carthage's spirit clings to it. Whispers among the prisoners say it's Tanit's last gift, a promise of rebirth. Historians still debate whether Rome salted Carthage's earth to curse its future, but you feel the desolation now, a city erased. You glance at the tree, its branches trembling, and wonder if it's hope or mockery. Your bound hands ache, the rope cutting into your skin, but you keep walking, unable to look away. Key fact, in 146 BC, Rome razed Carthage to the ground, enslaving survivors and destroying its temples, ensuring the city's legacy was reduced to ash. You see that destruction now, the marketplace where you saw starving faces now a field of embers, the plaza where Hasdrubal rallied the crowd a pile of stones. You pass the harbor, its waters choked with sunken ships, their masts jutting like broken bones. You remember the molten statue of Dido, the women's shorn hair, the boy with the sling, a litany of defiance swallowed by Rome's wrath. You're herded with other prisoners, their faces hollow, their eyes fixed on the ground. You see the woman from the forge, her shorn head scarred, limping beside you. She doesn't speak, but her presence is a spark, a reminder of Carthage's fire. You want to reach out, but the chains hold you back. The girl with the silver fish necklace is gone, lost in the chaos, and you feel her absence like a blade. The Romans march you toward their ships, their voices loud with triumph, but you hear only the silence of a city that fought until it broke. You pause, the Romans shouting for you to move. You look back, the city's ruins fading into the haze. The olive tree stands alone, its shadow long, a witness to Carthage's end. You recall the vulture, the blood-smeared curses, the priest's final chant, omens you couldn't escape. You're not sure if Carthage's gods failed you, or if Rome's hunger was too vast. The memory of Hasdrubal's defiance, the women's sacrifice, the temple's last stand, they burn in your mind, a fire Rome can't extinguish. You're forced onto a ship, the deck cold under your feet. The sea stretches ahead, a world ruled by Rome. You feel Carthage slipping away, its walls, its people, its gods reduced to ash. You're a prisoner, but you carry the city's story, its pain, its pride. The ship creaks, pulling you from the shore, and you close your eyes, the ruins fading like a dream. The world grows quiet, the sea's rhythm a slow, mournful pulse. You stand on the deck, the chains heavy, the wind carrying ash from Carthage's corpse. The city is gone, its walls dust, its people scattered. You see Scipio's crimson cloak in your mind, his young face unyielding, a conqueror who wept, or so they say. The olive tree lingers, its scorched leaves a whisper of what was. You feel the silence settle, a weight that presses you into the earth. Carthage's empire is ash, but its shadow remains, haunting, unyielding. You're left with its story, a fire that burned too bright, a defiance that Rome could break but never erase.